Hello, today we are talking about this setup and why I have a few interesting doodads for you all to take a look at. All funky jazz aside, this is my setup. This is what I use to make YouTube videos, play video games, and any sort of computing that I need to do on a daily basis. So let's run through the setup and tell you what's the cool stuff. Starting with the desk, it's definitely not the coolest, but it's my custom take on the IKEA desk, which I cut some lights in the shape of those Star Wars lights you see in the movies, and ran some LEDs around the back. Turn the lights to purple. Ooh. And cable managed everything into the sides. I added 2 IKEA Alex drawers and an IKEA tabletop, which has been in use for, about 3 years now. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the wall backing that I used. This is actually foam sound dampening from thefoamfactory.com. It's super cheap stuff that all I did was put a dot of super glue on each one of these and stick it right to the drywall. I cut it into different little patterns and it's been working great as just some ambient texture versus the drywall. And speaking of extra ambiance, we're talking about the lighting now. Everything I've used is from Lifix. Their stuff seems to last the longest, even though it's not completely color matched from bulb to bulb. This is what I'm using with Google Home to get my lighting completely done. On to the monitors and stands. The main monitor I'm using that's sitting directly in front of me is a 32-inch LG Ultra Gear, the 32GQ950B. This is a display HDR 1000 fantastic 12-bit monitor. Its color accuracy is as good as you're going to get for a $1,000 monitor, and the 144 hertz refresh rate on this type of panel is fantastic. This plays games in HDR incredibly well, and paired with an LG Ergo stand, it is just fantastic. It doesn't really take up much space on the desk, and the panel itself, while being pretty heavy, is perfectly compatible with the LG stand. Now, the other monitor I use on my left-hand side is the LG Dual Up, or the LG 28MQ780B. This monitor is not as impressive spec-wise, but the fantastic thing with this monitor is it is a portrait-style monitor, so it is a very odd aspect ratio. It's set up to mainly be more of a portrait style than a landscape style, so this is definitely a monitor that I'd recommend as a side monitor to a large, like 32-inch monitor or even larger monitor than that, but this is exactly how I like to do my setup. Emails, video editing software, and anything that needs to be a long scrolling list is phenomenal on this. And I do have one odd monitor, which is a tiny touchscreen monitor that is meant for a Raspberry Pi that I've been using for notifications, taskboard items, and Discord. So I mainly have Discord here at the bottom, and then I'll have whatever else I need, generally for playing games or editing, up on the main monitors. The resolution isn't very high, but this monitor is or Discord notifications and stuff like that. Now, in addition to all of these monitors, I use PowerToys, which is some software that is available for Windows through the Windows Store. This software allows you to configure your screen in a way that you can move your different windows over to what you want versus to just clicking to the side. You can set them up however you'd like them to be stacked, and just by holding shift and clicking and dragging, it opens up the program but doesn't keep anything kind of on screen. It just lets you do what you actually want to do, which is maybe put one on the top and 2 on the bottom. I really like this software, and I'm glad that Windows has it available for everybody for free. My experience so far with these 2 LG monitors and the tiny monitor we have at the bottom here has been absolutely fantastic so far. And the 2 Ergo stands that I was able to get my whole hands on are awesome. I modified mine so that I could add lights to the back of them, but then also still ran all the cabling through there. So with a little bit of modification, you can get a lot more cables through there than
you'd normally think.
The next thing I've been noticing I use a lot more is this little dish holder from Amazon. It's a very cheap item here. It's made out of bamboo, so it's not crazy quality here, but what it does perfectly is hold handhelds that I'm using currently. So I usually have my iPad, the Steam Deck, and a revolving third option of whatever I'm either testing or playing out for a weekend or taking somewhere that I want to look at and push some software to before I leave for a trip or something like that. This little thing has cleaned up my desk space, and I absolutely love this stupid little thing. Moving on to audio. These speakers are actually cabinets that you can buy off of Amazon in addition to Dayton Audio drivers that I put in here. I wanted some speakers that would fit under the monitor, but also be relatively powered with not being too expensive. So what I landed on was to make my own speakers with off-the-shelf parts. So I ended up getting these cabinets, which are meant, I believe, for like cars, and putting 2 full-range drivers in them, wiring them up, and attaching them to another Dayton Audio 2-channel board. And I actually just glued that board to the bottom of the desk. And how that board works is it has an auto on-off. So after a few minutes of inactivity and still connected to power, it actually will just turn off on its own. So when I turn on the computer and it shows the Windows sound, it turns on, and then will turn off if I'm not playing anything. It's actually surprisingly great.
Now, a lot of these items could even use their own videos, so if anyone has specific interest or a lot of interest in any of these items, drop a comment down below and I'll make a video about one of these items, because there's a lot of cool stuff on here that I would make this video way too long.
Going along with the kind of wood bamboo, light bamboo aesthetic here, we have the little mini monitor stand that I'm using, which I have actually ordered a new keyboard, the Wooting 60, but that is not here yet. So I'm still using my old keyboard. The new one should be able to slide right into the bottom of that when I'm not using it. Going along with that, I also have a phone holder, which I actually bought from IKEA. It's like $3, but it holds my phone there and is also the same type of light wood / bamboo. Moving on to some more of the peripherals. This is the Megalodon wireless Macropad. This is a fantastically put together little device that is great for writing your own software to. If you're up to date with on how to use VIA and how to write macros for something, this is a fantastic device. It is built incredibly well and has tons and tons of features. The problem right now with it though is that it's a little buggy. The VIA and Vile software that you need to use with this Macropad is not quite there yet with the software development. So moving on to the next piece of hardware that I use every day, which right now it's the SteelSeries keyboard I've had for quite a while. I don't mind this keyboard, I'm just looking for a smaller one. So what I've ordered is the Wooting 60 HE, and this keyboard I'm actually really excited for. It's an analog input 60% keyboard, which has full switch motion with 0.1 millimeters of accuracy. I think it's going to be really cool. Next thing we're going to talk about is the mouse and mouse pad. I watched a bunch of different videos from Optimum Tech, which he went over a bunch of the different mice that are available on the market, and I ended up figuring out that I'm not a pro gamer and I'm a mild content creator, so you know, I went with the Logitech G Superlight. This mouse is absolutely fantastic. It is incredibly light compared to all other gaming mouses I've used, and it has fantastic battery life. So even though it doesn't have the right port on it, I don't know why they're still not making everything USB-C. I really like this mouse, and it could really, again, have its own video. If you'd like to see a roundup of some good mice, Optimum Tech's video knocks it out of the park. So take a look at the video down in the description of how he round everything up. I also went with the mouse pad from Logitech because it's cheap, washable, and if I need a new one, it's only $30. Moving on to the mixer that I'm using for recording audio for this entire video and all of my other videos I've ever done, which is the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. It's a USB-C powered mixer that has 48 volt phantom power and a few different tricks up its sleeve to XLR inputs in addition to combo jacks, which you can plug instruments in through as well. This is a fantastic device that I've had for quite a few years now, and I highly recommend it. The mic that I'm using is an XLR microphone that is an MXL 770. I've had this for about almost 4 years now, and it has been completely fantastic. Now on to the weird box, which is my computer. I've gone and made a case out of maker beams and some regular furniture grade plywood. So this was a little project that I did a while ago because I wanted it in a smaller form factor, but to be able to fit a full ATX motherboard, because that's the parts that I had now, and I didn't want to have to pay for a whole new setup just to get it to be a little smaller. So I spent around $130 on the parts and got maker beams to make the shapes, and all I did was basically go through and fit all the pieces into the place using the maker beam kit, and then drilled some holes in some plywood and cut some panels and put it all together. So far the thermals have been completely fine, but I've realized that I need to get into it more than I anticipated, which is why this project's like still ongoing. So let me know if you'd like to see this one fully finished. As for my parts that I'm still using a AMD Ryzen 7 2700X 8-core processor with 16 threads at 4 gigahertz. This processor is plenty for what I'm doing and gaming with, and I have seen no reason to upgrade this. I think the next parts that I'll be using to upgrade are the motherboard and the graphics card, but if I do that, it generally want a different chip anyway, so that's why I've held off and kept these parts. I still have a GTX 1080 Ti from Nvidia and EVGA. This graphics card has been working plenty fine for me, so this is my current setup, and I'd like to do a different build to get this to a different, more powerful side, but until I see parts come down, I think I'm good with where I'm at. For what I do on a day-to-day basis, this is plenty of power for me. Moving on to the 8BitDo Ultimate Bluetooth controller, which is a fantastic controller, dock, and dongle. This controller has been fantastic to use with the PC, Steam Deck, and my Switch, and it's just been super nice to be able to slap it back on the dock and not have to worry about anything. It's just connected to the PC, or I flip the switch on the back and go over to whatever I want to with Bluetooth. The link to the video for that one is down in the description. Now, this is the secret part of the video where you actually get a peek into how I did some of the cable management, which for this one, I tried to use LG's ergo stands as much as I could for the cable management upstairs, and for downstairs, I tried to keep all of the cable management in the kind of alcoves that I have, in addition to a headphone hook for the headphones that I have under there, which is actually, I forgot to mention, is what I use for when I'm talking on Discord. When I'm not doing voiceovers, I don't really see a need to set up all this audio equipment, so I use a Corsair headset that is USB powered and is actually fantastic to play with. It has a broadcast omnidirectional microphone that I use that has an on-off switch when you flip it up and down, and they've been working great, specifically with Discord. But behind that is where I've actually done most of my hiding. I was using a roll of Velcro, cutting it up into pieces, and then using like a wire hiding mesh that has Velcro sewn into it. So what I ended up doing is gluing the Velcro to the desk and then basically making my own cable trays without having to buy a specific tray that fits this. So far, we've had no issues with overheating or any sort of bricks going bad because of them heating up in there, so we'll see how it continues to go. This also brings us to the last portion of the build, felt mouse pads, which were relatively cheap. I think they're around 13 bucks. I ordered 2 of these, and it actually acts as a runner for the back of the desk. So there's actually a gap between the desk and the wall, and I didn't want to have any light spilling up or any cables not being able to go down, so I couldn't use a flat piece of wood, which I initially wanted to do. I just wanted to have something in between that kind of bridged the gap and covered up some of the holes, which ended up being perfect for these felt mouse pads.
So this is my personal build that I use every day to edit my videos and do other work that comes along. If you'd like to take a look at something a little bit less in the budget department, or you'd have a interest in possibly any other technology that's on the channel here, hit one of these videos. Or hit subscribe so that you can see what I come out with next. We've been doing this for quite a while now, and I still have yet to figure out how to be paid in pickles. Or maybe garlic?